good? Are we having a good time yet? We go out to, what was it, like McFadden's last night? Vans? Yeah, a few people. Okay. Everyone else stayed in and slept so they could get up early and hear all the speeches, right? Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it is an honor to be here. My name is Malagisi. I'm the CPAC Director for the American Conservative Union. How many of you have been to CPAC before? Oh, wow. Great. How many of you don't know what CPAC is? A few people. Well, the American Conservative Union is, just a little quick background, it is the oldest conservative movement organization in the country. It was started by people like Bill Buckley, Russell Kirk, and others in 1964 in the ash heap of the Barry Goldwater presidential campaign, with the idea of serving as an umbrella organization for the entire conservative movement. And one of the things that we do is organize the largest annual gathering of conservatives every year, called the Conservative Political Action Conference. For those who've been there, you know what it is. It's just a 3-day, for me it's like Candyland. But it's 3 days of hearing all the Rush Limbaughs, everyone from Fox, your conservative Republican leaders from around the country, coming together to discuss and debate the ideas that we're going to be debating each year. It's going to be February 9th through the 11th at the Marriott Boardman Park Hotel, not too far from here. It's a 3-day conference. We had over 11,000 attendees last year, and you know what? You know who made up half of the people? College students. College students make up half of the attendees of CPAC. So if not for the intellectual stimulation or engagement, you have a party for 3 days, and it's a lot of fun. And as a college student, one of my greatest regrets was not being able to go to this. Before I get into kind of the crux of what I wanted to talk about, I had a little story. I believe you brought me to mention, I'm actually an adjunct professor. I teach a course at American University called History of the Conservative Movement. Yes, they actually let me teach that. And I was talking to one of my colleagues, and they had a very interesting story about a student that I thought you might be able to relate to a little bit. Called A Father-Daughter Talk. A young, starry-eyed girl was about to finish her first year of matriculation at college. Like so many others her age, she considered herself to be a very liberal Democrat, or now modernly called a progressive, and believed in the redistribution of wealth. She felt ashamed that her father was a rather staunch Republican, which she expressed openly. One day, she was challenging her father on his beliefs and his opposition to higher taxes and more welfare programs. In the middle of her heartfelt diatribe, based upon the lectures she had heard from her diversity-oriented professors at her school, he stopped her and asked her point blank, "You know, honey, how's school going?" Well, she answered haughtily that she had a 4.0 GPA, and let him know that it was tough to maintain that grade, that she had to study all the time, never had time to go out and party, except for a brief reprieve watching some quality television programs like Jersey Shore and MTV's Teen Mom. That's a joke. Thank God no one sees that, right? Kind of like slowly watching the moral decline of Western civilization. She did not even have time for a boyfriend and not really that many friends that she had because she was spending all her time studying. Furthermore, to get ahead, she was taking a more difficult curriculum. Her father listened and then asked, "Well, what about your roommate Mary? How's Mary doing?" She replied, "Well, Mary, well, she's barely getting by. All she has barely been able to get was a 2.0 GPA, and all she takes are classes that are easy. But Mary is so popular on campus, so she goes out all the time, she goes to parties. Sometimes, though, she doesn't even get to class because she's a little hungover, which nobody here has ever felt like this." Her father then asked her daughter, "Well, why don't you go to the dean's office and ask him to deduct 1 point off of your 4.0 GPA and give it to your friend who only had a 2.0. He continued, "That way you will both have a 3.0 GPA, and certainly that would be a fair, equal distribution of your GPA, right?" The daughter, visibly shocked by her father's suggestion, angrily fired back, "Well, that wouldn't be fair. I worked really hard for my grade, and Mary has done little or nothing. She played while I worked hard. That's unfair." Her father crept up to her, smiled, and said, "Welcome to the Republican Party." Oh, you can clap. Well, since I'm from the American Conservative Union, I want to give a brief little Conservatism 101. On the very first class, on the very first day, the very first question I ask my students is this, and try to think if you can answer this. What is conservatism? We use this word a lot. Everyone talks about it. Everyone's a conservative these days. But what is conservatism itself? Usually when I ask my students this, they tell me, well, you know, they want, there's platitudes like less taxes, they tend to be pro-life, they want to win the wars. Okay, that's true, but fundamentally though, what is conservatism? Or maybe the better question to ask is, what are conservatives inherently trying to conserve? Everybody know the answer to this? If you had to ask, what are we conserving? The ideas of American exceptionalism. Our first principles, our founding principles. And what are those founding principles? There's 5 major founding principles that we have. The first is the idea of a constitutionally limited government. Basically, the government shouldn't do anything more than what it's supposed to do. Crazy idea, I know. The second thing is individual liberty, that we should try for the maximization of freedom, yet with certain rights come with responsibilities as well. The third thing is a free market economy, so that everyone has a chance at the American dream. The fourth is a strong national defense, so we can protect America here at home and our interests abroad. And the fifth is to preserve our traditional values, our schools, our communities, and our churches, values that get passed on from one generation to the next. Those are these truths. We still hold these truths as conservatives to be self-evident. In conservatism itself, it's basically made up of 3 groups. You know, when you talk about it, some people might be a fiscal conservative, social conservative, or defense conservative. Well, there's 3 groups that make up the conservative movement. Contrary to popular opinion and what MSNBC will have you believe, conservatism is not univocal. It's basically made up of these 3 disparate yet workable groups. The first group is classically known as the classical liberal or libertarian crowd. Those are those that emphasize a little bit more the limited government, free market economy, and the individual liberty aspect of conservatism. How many of you like that? Is that something you agree with? Can I get a hoorah? All right, good. The second group tends to be more called the social conservative, but they're traditionally called traditionalists. And they believe in a transcendent moral order that certain morals and values should be passed on from one generation to the next to treat each other civilly, or the civil society. And the third is anti-communism, not really used too much anymore, but those are the national security, national defense conservatives. And the idea, again, that we should protect our interests here at home and abroad. So these 3 groups, in a coalition of sorts, work together. And I think it's fair to say they basically make the foundation of the principles of the Republican Party in many respects. More conservatives tend to align with Republicans and Democrats. When we talk about the history, there's something that ACU is doing, and if you want to learn more about how this all came about, there is a flyer that we have an education campaign. I don't know if you've seen this yet. Who is Bill Buckley? Bill Buckley, William F. Buckley Jr. was conservatism before conservatism was cool, though he made it cool. And he basically was one of the main reasons why all those 3 different wings were able to form and to come together into a cohesive conservative movement that was a political force to be reckoned with. Bill Buckley had an idea that conservatism should be a movement of ideas in action with political consequences. The idea that we can marry the philosophy, those things that we are very passionate about, with a certain modicum of pragmatism, an idea of we have to win some campaigns here in order to get those ideas passed. So the marriage of the 2, that's something we strongly believe in at the American Conservative Union. I'd love for you to learn more about Bill Buckley. Our fantastic interns in the back there, Alex, Vinny, and Alyssa, are doing great. They passed out a flyer there too, but we also have a table too. Just one real quick anecdote. I was a college Republican officer at American University, very liberal university, when I was in school there. And one of the things we like to do is cause some havoc and trouble, like I'm sure we've all tried to do. Everybody familiar with the group PETA? Yeah, PETA. These guys were hardcore on campus. There were videos of slaughtering cows everywhere on there, and yet half of them eating burgers, which I thought was funny. But there were so many friends that were so fed up with all these groups, so always on campus every single day, right before you went into the school cafeteria out there. So they decided they wanted to form a PETA called People Enjoying Tasty Animals. And they actually had 12 people to get started a club. They were given like $300, and what they would do every month is watch WWE and eat Big Macs. And that was their meetings there. It's little things like that that make college Republicans fun, and one of the things I loved. I was a field rep for the college Republican National Committee back in 2004. It was in Ohio. Any Ohioans out there? There you go, yeah. Ooh, you got some Michigan people in? Oh, okay. But it's a unique opportunity to get involved and get started. I'm sure you're going to hear that all day, but guys, your careers have already started. I don't know if you realize that or not. Being a college Republican is where you create your network first. Those people, I still talk and still network with a lot of those friends that I made as a college Republican in conferences like these. It's important. I know I don't need to make the case on that, but we at the ACU want to do whatever we can to help you out, and we'd love for you to come to CPAC, February 9th through 11th at the Marriott in DC. But if anybody is from Florida, we have a little special. There you go. We have a little regional. Wow, a lot of Floridians. Wow. We have a special regional Florida conference CPAC that we're doing, and I just wanted to show you a 1 minute and 29-second preview trailer for that. You're gonna love this. I hope you do.
I believe in American exceptionalism, just as I suspect that the Brits believe in British exceptionalism and the Greeks believe in Greek exceptionalism.
Do we like? Pretty cool? We have a secret rate, by the way. It's only $25 to come to Florida, and it's usually only $35 for National CPAC. So if you're in Florida, in Orlando, it's Friday, September 23rd coming up. We'd love to have you. We have a table outside, too. The Young Conservatives Coalition, they're out there as well. If you're looking for a job, if you're a senior and graduating and trying to get your foot in the door, check out the YCC as well. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. If we can be of any assistance to you, stop on by. We'd love to have you. Have a fun conference.